Ethan Harper adjusted the frayed trucker hat, shielding his eyes as he stepped into Harper's kitchen, the bell above the door jingling softly. No one spared him a glance. Perfect. His faded denim jacket, scuffed boots, and a week's worth of stubble made him blend into the lunch crowd. For nearly 2 decades, Ethan had built this place from a run-down burger joint into a cherished neighborhood staple with 5 locations across town. Lately, though, he'd been too buried in boardroom deals and growth strategies to visit. Something was off. Profits at this original spot were slipping despite packed tables, and staff turnover was creeping up. Ethan needed answers. "Counter okay?" a server named Lisa asked, barely looking up from her order pad. "Works for me," Ethan replied, gruffing up his voice. He slid onto a stool at the counter's edge where he could watch the whole operation. The lunch rush was in full swing, servers weaving through tables, cooks calling out orders, the register pinging with each sale. Everything seemed fine on the surface, but a nagging unease tugged at him. That's when he noticed Walter, the elderly dishwasher. Amid the chaos, Walter moved with a quiet precision, stacking plates with care. Thin as a rail, with a mop of silver hair and hands gnarled by years of work, he looked to be in his late 70s. Yet his sharp eyes missed nothing, scanning the room with a calm awareness. "What'll it be?" A young cashier, her name tag reading Sophie, finally acknowledged Ethan. "Turkey melt and a coffee," Ethan said, sliding a 20 across the counter. As Sophie rang him up, he nodded toward Walter. "He been here long?" Sophie sighed, rolling her eyes. "Forever. Guy should have retired ages ago." For the next hour, Ethan sipped his coffee, watching Walter. The old man never paused, even when a careless busboy dumped a tray of dishes into his station, splashing grimy water onto his worn apron. Customers passing the dish window greeted Walter by name, and he always responded with a warm smile or a kind word. Ethan's chest tightened with a mix of admiration and curiosity. Just before the rush died down, a young woman with 2 kids approached the register. Her face fell as she rummaged through her wallet, whispering to Sophie. The cashier's expression soured, and she waved over another cashier, Nate. They exchanged annoyed glances as the mother grew visibly flustered, her kids clinging to her legs. Walter, wiping down his station, noticed. Without a word, he dried his hands and shuffled over, slipping a few bills to Sophie. The mother's shoulders relaxed, and she thanked Walter profusely before leaving. "That's the 3rd time this week," Nate muttered, loud enough for Ethan to hear. "Old guy's gonna go broke playing hero." Sophie smirked. "As if he's got anything to spare. Probably lives in that beat-up van of his." Ethan's grip on his mug tightened, his jaw clenching. The manager, Claire, a stressed woman Ethan vaguely recalled hiring, passed by without noticing the exchange. Over the next few hours, Ethan saw more. Walter stayed late, scrubbing corners others ignored, and quietly covered for 2 more customers, a teen whose card was declined and an older man confused by the bill. "Why's he do that?" Ethan asked a regular named Tom, seated nearby. Tom, a longtime patron, sighed. "Walter's good people. Lost his wife to cancer a while back. It drained everything they had. He's too proud to take handouts, so he works, even with his arthritis acting up. Breaks my heart how some of these kids talk about him." As the day wore on, Ethan noticed Walter wincing, rubbing his back when he bent low. Yet he never complained. When a server dropped a tray, Walter was there with a mop, brushing off her apologies. "No worries, kiddo," he said gently. "Happens to everyone." Nate, passing by, scoffed under his breath. "Yeah, especially around old guys who belong in a home." By late afternoon, Walter was still there, cleaning grease traps, a grimy task meant for the night crew. "Walter, go home," Claire called out. "Night shift can handle it." "Just finishing up," Walter replied. "Jake's out sick again. I don't mind." Ethan's gut twisted. This was routine, he could tell. As he nursed another coffee, he caught Sophie and Nate whispering at the counter's end, shooting glances at Walter. Their sly smirks and hushed tones set off alarms in Ethan's head. Suddenly, Sophie frowned at the register, calling Nate over. They made a show of counting the drawer, their voices rising. "We're short again," Nate announced loudly. $42, 3rd time this week." Claire, about to leave, froze. "How much?" "Same as Tuesday and Thursday," Sophie said, her voice carrying to nearby tables. Ethan watched Walter pause, a flicker of worry crossing his face. A cold realization hit Ethan. He was witnessing something sinister. The man who'd spent his day helping others was now a target, oblivious to the plotting eyes watching him. Ethan had come looking for business insights, but what he'd found was far more troubling and far more valuable. Staring at Walter's weathered silhouette against the kitchen's harsh lights, Ethan vowed to uncover the truth, no matter how ugly. The next day, Ethan returned, settling into a booth near the counter. His disguise held, worn jacket, hat pulled low. Walter was already at work, moving slower, discreetly massaging his wrist. Sophie and Nate were on shift, their heads bent together whenever the diner quieted. Ethan ordered pie and coffee, using a newspaper as cover to eavesdrop. The place was nearly empty, save for a few regulars and a guy on his laptop. Nate leaned against the counter near Sophie. "Check the records," he said, smirking. "Walter's been here 8 years. 8 years washing dishes. Pathetic." Sophie snorted. "What's pathetic is him playing saint for every broke customer. That mom yesterday? He's burning through his Social Security or whatever." Ethan's knuckles whitened around his mug. He'd built Harper's Kitchen to be a haven, a place where people felt at home. Hearing his own staff mock a man like Walter made his stomach churn. "Bet he lives in that rusty van," Sophie whispered. "Seen it parked out back?" "My money's on a tent by the highway," Nate laughed. "Either way, he's a problem. Claire's noticing the register issues." Their voices dropped, and Ethan strained to hear. "Here's the plan," Nate said, checking for listeners. "We know Walter slips cash in when customers come up short. Claire doesn't. All she sees is the numbers don't add up." Sophie's eyes gleamed. "So we make sure they really don't add up." "Exactly," Nate nodded. "Then we catch him near the register at the wrong time. Claire'll think he's stealing." "Why?" Ethan wanted to shout. He flipped a page, listening. "My buddy needs a job," Nate explained. "Young, fast. If Walter's gone, gone. I get him in. We split the hiring bonus. Plus," Sophie added, "I'm tired of his sad shuffle, and the way customers fawn over him. Oh, Walter, you're so kind. Makes me gag." "Tomorrow," Nate decided. "Claire's doing inventory, so she'll be all over the numbers. We'll make sure Walter's the only explanation." They sealed it with a fist bump as a couple entered the diner. Ethan sat frozen, his coffee cold. Anger and shame battled in his chest. Anger at Sophie and Nate, shame at himself for letting this happen under his watch. For the rest of the day, Ethan watched Walter. Despite his pain, the old man moved with purpose, cleaning up a server's spilled plates and fixing a jammed coffee machine. When a teen's card failed, Walter quietly covered it, shrugging off Nate's taunt. "Kid's mom lost her job," Walter said softly. "A meal helps." As closing neared, Ethan paid and left, but he didn't go far. From his car across the street, he waited. Walter emerged an hour late, climbing into his creaky van. Ethan followed at a distance as the van wound through town, past cozy homes to a gravel lot behind a strip mall. Tucked behind some trees was a crumbling RV, its paint peeling. Walter climbed rickety steps, shouldering the door open. A dim bulb flickered inside, revealing a space barely bigger than a closet. Ethan's throat tightened with guilt. How had he not known? How had he let an employee live like this? Later, posing as a curious stranger, he approached a regular couple. "What's Walter's story?" "Lost his Ellen to cancer," the woman said softly. "Sold everything for her treatment. Still pays the hospital monthly. His daughter in Portland wants him to move in, but he's too proud. Says he won't burden her." That night, sleep evaded Ethan. Walter's hunched figure haunted him, a stark contrast to Ethan's own comfortable life. By dawn, he'd made calls, setting plans in motion. He'd expose Sophie and Nate and make things right. Ethan arrived at Harper's Kitchen before opening, watching staff trickle in. Walter was first, his van sputtering into the lot. Despite a restless night in that cramped RV, he moved with quiet resolve. Ethan drove to a nearby cafe to meet Tom, the regular who'd spoken warmly of Walter. "Thanks for coming," Ethan said, keeping his disguise. "I can't stop thinking about Walter." Tom stirred his coffee. "Known him 6 years. Started coming here after his wife passed. Ellen was his everything. High school sweethearts. Married 50 years. Cancer took it all, their savings, their house. Experimental treatments weren't covered. Walter sold everything, moved her to a top facility, got 8 more months with her. Did it help? Ethan asked, voice low. Those were his best months, he says, Tom replied, eyes misty. After she passed, the bills kept coming. He wouldn't go bankrupt, said a debt's a debt. Took this job because no one else would hire a 70-year-old with arthritis. The RV? Ethan pressed. Best he could afford, paying the hospital and sending cash to his daughter. She thinks he's a supervisor here. He sends diner photos, keeps up the act. Each word hit Ethan like a punch. He'd built Harper's to be a family, yet he'd failed Walter. There's more, Tom added. That RV park's being sold. Walter's got 60 days to move. Hasn't told anyone at work. Where'll he go? Ethan asked. Tom shrugged. Rent's sky high. His daughter's begging him to move to Portland, but he won't. Says the diner's his family now. Helping people gives him purpose. Ethan returned to the diner, slipping into his booth. The morning rush was hectic, Walter bussing tables when servers fell behind. Sophie and Nate were at it, Nate pocketing change, Sophie voiding sales, their smirks aimed at Walter. Around 11, a young mother with 3 kids, the same one Walter helped before, came up short at the register. Her face flushed as she counted coins. I thought I had enough, she whispered to Sophie. Can I skip the tip to cover it? Sophie's smile was icy. Not how it works. I'm sure our dishwasher'll bail you out again. Walter, she called, drawing eyes. Customer needs your charity. The diner quieted, the mother's humiliation palpable. Walter approached, slipping her cash without a word. Thank you, she murmured. I'll pay you back next week. No hurry, Lena, Walter said warmly. Kids enjoying their new school? He turned her shame into a moment of connection, asking about her job hunt. As Lena left, Nate muttered to Sophie, Another $15 for our total. Claire's gonna lose it. Ethan had enough. He stepped outside, made a call, and returned as Claire emerged, calculator in hand. We're short nearly $100 this week, she announced. Nate jumped in. I've noticed weird stuff at the registers. Maybe check the cameras? They've been down for months, Claire said, frustrated. Owner won't fund new ones. Ethan made a mental note to grill his regional manager. Sophie chimed in. I saw someone near the registers yesterday who doesn't handle cash. Her glance at Walter was unmistakable. Claire frowned. Henry, stealing? That's not like him. Desperate times, Nate said, faking concern. Old guy, no savings. Ethan watched Walter through the kitchen window, scrubbing plates with care, unaware of the accusations. Tomorrow, Ethan decided, wasn't just about exposing Sophie and Nate. It was about fixing his business, starting with ensuring no one like Walter lived in an RV again. The next morning, Ethan arrived early, his 3rd day undercover. He'd spent the night finalizing his plan, making calls, ensuring every piece was set. In his usual booth, he watched the morning unfold. Walter arrived on time, moving stiffly. Sophie and Nate whispered, their smug smiles grating. Claire paced, stressed about the shortages. At 10:15, the door chimed. A woman in her 30s entered with a young girl, both neatly dressed but showing signs of strain, worn sneakers, a patched jacket. This was Maria Lopez, a single mom Ethan had contacted via a community program. She wasn't acting. She worked 2 jobs to raise her daughter, Emma, but agreed to help for a donation to Emma's college fund. Maria and Emma sat near the counter. Sophie took their order. Grilled cheese for her, soup for me, Maria said. When Maria went to pay, her face fell. I thought I had enough, she said softly. My card's down, bank glitch. I'm $5 short. Sophie's tone was sharp. Can't give food away. Count your cash next time. Maria's eyes glistened, Emma looking confused. Could I wash dishes to cover it? We've got staff, Sophie snapped. Walter, at his station, saw it all. He dried his hands and approached. I've got it, he said, pulling out his wallet. No, please, Maria protested, playing her role. Walter smiled. We all need a hand sometimes. Pay it forward when you can. As Walter paid, Nate smirked from the second register. The trap was set. 10 minutes later, Nate approached Claire. Boss, register one's short again. $20. Claire's face hardened. I balanced it an hour ago. Sophie joined in. I saw something odd earlier. When that woman couldn't pay, Walter was at the register right after. Are you saying Walter's stealing? Claire asked, worried. Nate shrugged. Just saying, cameras are down. Convenient. We need a cash count now, Sophie urged. Claire nodded, counting the drawer with Sophie and Nate hovering. $37 short, Claire said, pale. Over $100 this week. She marched to the dish room, Sophie and Nate trailing, barely hiding their glee. Walter, can we talk? Claire called. Walter looked up, confused by their grim faces. Something wrong? The register's short all week, Claire said, voice tight. Today, $40 vanished after you were near it. Walter's face fell, shock giving way to pain. You think I'm stealing? You've been at the register when you shouldn't, Nate said, feigning regret. Money disappears right after. I was helping customers who couldn't pay, Walter said, bewildered. I put money in. Sophie scoffed. On your wages? Convenient. Walter's hands shook, the accusation sinking in. I'd never steal. This place has been my lifeline. Claire looked conflicted. I trust you, Walter, but the numbers don't lie. Multiple witnesses saw you. Witnesses? Walter glanced at Sophie and Nate, understanding dawning. Sadness replaced his confusion, but he didn't argue. I see. You'll want my resignation. I have to let you go, Claire said, voice breaking. Policy on theft is clear. The diner was silent, customers stunned. Nate offered, I'll walk him out, his satisfaction clear. No need, a voice cut in. Ethan stood, shedding his disguise. He removed his hat, straightened, and strode forward with authority. Claire gasped. Mr. Harper. Seems I need to step in, Ethan said, voice ringing through the quiet diner. The room froze as Ethan approached. Forks paused. Conversations died. The kitchen's hum faded. All eyes followed the owner. Patricia, you didn't know I was here, Ethan said. I've been observing all week as a customer. What I've seen is eye-opening. His gaze locked on Sophie and Nate, cold and unyielding. Nate laughed nervously. Sir, we were just following theft protocol. Enough, Ethan said, his quiet tone silencing Nate. Walter stood, clutching a dish towel, confusion etched on his face. Ethan addressed the diner. I'm Ethan Harper. I started this place 18 years ago to treat customers and staff like family. Somewhere we lost that. He pulled a device from his pocket. Claire mentioned broken cameras. Funny, since I approved new ones 2 days ago. Hidden, with audio. Claire's eyes widened. I wasn't told. We'll fix that, Ethan cut in. For now, let's see what's been happening. He connected the device to a corner TV. Footage played. Nate pocketing cash, inflating totals, Sophie voiding sales, both plotting in clear audio. If we frame Walter, Claire'll fire him. My buddy gets his job, we split the bonus, and no more sad old man dragging us down. Gasps echoed. Regulars stood, furious. Claire covered her mouth. Ethan advanced the footage, Walter slipping cash into the register for customers, staying late, shielding staff from blame. The final clip showed Sophie and Nate rigging today's shortage. This morning's theft was staged, Ethan said, fury controlled. The only thieves here are the accusers. Nate paled. Mr. Harper, it's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Ethan's voice was icy. Is that what you call framing a loyal employee? Stealing? Mocking a man who's faced more pain than you'll ever know, yet shows more heart than you ever will? Sophie sobbed, mascara streaking. You didn't mean to get caught, Ethan snapped. He turned to Claire. Did you know Walter lives in a crumbling RV paying off his wife's medical bills? That he skips meals to help customers? That he works through arthritis because he won't burden anyone? Claire shook her head, tears falling. No! That's on me, Ethan said. My system failed him. I failed him. He faced the diner. Walter Brooks is what Harper's Kitchen should be. Kind, honest, selfless. Instead, we let him be humiliated by two people who care only for themselves. Bam, ici. Nate bolted for the door, but regulars blocked him. Police will want a word, Ethan said. I showed them the footage earlier. As officers escorted Sophie and Nate out, Ethan turned to Walter, softening. I owe you an apology, Walter, not just for today, but for letting you down. I hope you'll let me make it right. Walter met his gaze, no bitterness in his eyes. "No need, Mr. Harper, you didn't know." "That's no excuse," Ethan said. "But I promise everyone will know who Walter Brooks is now." The diner erupted in applause, customers standing for the man whose quiet kindness had touched them all. As the police car left, staff watched, a lesson sinking in. Character outweighs status. The next morning, Harper's kitchen buzzed with a new energy. Word of Ethan's undercover stint and Sophie and Nate's scheme had spread, drawing a crowd. They came for more than gossip, to support Walter. Ethan arrived in a simple shirt, signaling his hands-on return. Walter walked in, uneasy with the attention, but customers greeted him warmly, offering smiles and thanks. "Walter?" Ethan called, nodding to his office. "A word?" The diner hushed as Walter crossed the room. Inside, Ethan gestured to a chair. "I've been reflecting on what I've learned about you, your heart, and how my business lost its way." Walter sat, hands folded, dignity unshaken. "I've always been grateful for this job, Mr. Harper. It saved me when no one else would hire me." "That's what we need to fix," Ethan said, sliding a folder across. "You're not just valued, Walter. You're essential. Effective immediately. You're floor manager. Higher salary, full benefits, easier hours for your health." Walter's eyes widened. "But I've never managed." "You've got integrity," Ethan said warmly. "That's rarer. You know what this place should be. The rest you'll learn." "Mightis." He pushed another folder forward. "I spoke to your daughter in Portland last night." Walter stiffened. "You called Lily?" "She doesn't know." "She knows now," Ethan said gently. "The RV, the bills, all of it. She's heartbroken you've been alone in this. Said to tell you love isn't a burden, it's a gift." He tapped the folder. "Here's the deed to a house nearby. Small, cozy, yours. No rent, no mortgage. Call it 8 years of overdue bonuses." Walter's hands shook as he saw his name on the deed. "Mr. Harper, this is too much." "It's not enough," Ethan insisted. "I also cleared your wife's medical bills with the hospital." Walter's composure cracked, tears tracing his weathered cheeks. "Why?" "Because you reminded me what matters," Ethan said, voice thick. "This business isn't about profits. It's about people. You live the values I only preached. Thank you for your work and for teaching me to be better." They stepped out to thunderous applause. Claire, eyes red but smiling, joined the staff congratulating Walter. Ethan addressed the crowd. "Starting today, Harper's Kitchen guarantees living wages, full benefits, and emergency aid. No one here should choose between bills and kindness." Cheers rose. Lena, the mom Walter helped, stepped forward with an envelope. "We collected this for you, Walter." Ethan raised a hand. "Walter's covered, but let's use that to start the Walter Brooks Community Fund, helping others with medical bills or hard times." Walter looked at the faces around him, customers he'd known for years, whose kids he'd watched grow, whose burdens he'd eased. Their smiles mirrored his quiet impact. In the weeks that followed, Walter settled into his new home and role. He stayed not from need but love for the diner, his community, his purpose. Each day he was greeted not as the struggling dishwasher, but as the man whose compassion reshaped a business and a town. Ethan stayed true to his word, transforming all locations into places where kindness matched profit. Sophie and Nate became industry warnings. Character trumps cunning, and true value lies in what you give, not what you take when you think no one's watching.